Hi friends. Yesterday we woke up to some fresh snow here in North Idaho. We got about 3 inches of new snow and some more ice on the river. We woke up early enough that we had time to make our coffee and make some breakfast and sit and relax and watch the snow falling before we headed off to church. The roads, they were working on plowing the roads, but they were fine for us. There was sand down and everything. But it was a beautiful drive to church, just seeing all the snow coming down and the snow all over everything. When we got home from church, I went out to check on the chickens to make sure their water wasn't frozen. And of course, they're free to go outside, but they did not want to go outside in the snow. They hate the snow. And then my son and I went for a walk down at the river to check out how much new ice there was. There were some big ice chunks that had broken off that were periodically floating down the river. It's always very relaxing to be at the river and just see all the changes. I mean, it can change from day to day. It's pretty amazing. And so I feel like every time I go down there, there's always something new to look at, something that's changed to look at. And it's just a wonderful spot. So after our little walk and after we had lunch, I decided to make some chocolate chip cookies. There's just something about it snowing outside and being cold that I feel like calls for some baking. And so my chickens, these of course are my chicken eggs, and my chickens are still laying like champs, even though we're just still fully in winter. They're doing great. And so this recipe for chocolate chip cookies, I have kind of developed, I guess you could say. It's the recipe that I've been tweaking for, I don't know, probably over a decade, if not more. But I've kind of gotten it to exactly where I like it, and it makes chocolate chip cookies exactly the way that I like them. And I will have the recipe. I have the recipe up on my blog, which is on my website, and I will have that link down in the notes below if you want to go check out the recipe. There's nothing fancy about it. It's still very simple, but I just tweaked a couple different things, and I feel like it just makes that kind of perfect, because I don't like a crispy cookie, but I also want it to be chewy. I don't want it to be crumbly. And so, but you'll kind of see at the end here at the video what they look like. But a couple of my secrets are I literally melt the butter completely. So the butter is completely melted, and then I use 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. And let's see, I do 3/4 cups of white sugar and 3/4 cup of light brown sugar packed. And I don't know, I feel like that combination makes for that perfect cookie. I also use less baking soda and less salt than you would typically use. But you can see the melted butter there, and you just cream it together like you would if it was just softened butter with the sugar. And it takes you kind of have to, you still want it to, you'll see the color will lighten up because you still want it to blend and cream up really well. And so it takes a little bit of time, but not too much. But there you can see it's kind of a lighter color. And I didn't show, but I did add vanilla. So, of course, you always have to have vanilla for chocolate chip cookies. And then, of course, always gradually add the flour. Don't just dump the entire amount in at once. Let it get all incorporated. And this is you can see the Pyrex. This is my beloved turquoise Pyrex that I collect. I say I collect it. I don't really, I'm not out hunting for it all the time, but if I am out antiquing and I see a piece of that turquoise Pyrex with the little farm zines on it, if I see something that's in good condition that I don't have yet, I might buy it, but I don't say that I actually collect it. I just really enjoy that particular Pyrex. And one thing that I love, it's kind of silly because you'll see that I don't put the chocolate chips in this bowl in the blender. I love putting the dough into a separate bowl and then adding the chocolate chips and stirring them in. I don't know why. It's just something that I like. I just enjoy having a clean bowl and putting the chocolate chips in and stirring them in that way by hand. I think it's a textural thing. I just really like the feel and the texture of stirring the dough by hand and mixing in the chocolate chips. Sometimes I'll even make an entire cookie recipe. I won't use my stand mixer. I'll just do it all by hand, like how I learned. When I learned how to bake cookies from my mom and my grandma and my aunts, growing up, we didn't have a mixer. I think my grandma had a little hand mixer, but for the most part, I learned it was all done by hand. Even creaming together the butter and sugar was all by hand. So sometimes it's fun to do that every once in a while. And but yeah, so with this, I literally just bake one small little tray of cookies. So here I just do 6 cookies, and the rest you'll see here in a minute. I don't like to bake them, but I don't like to bake the entire batch, especially if I'm not taking them anywhere. Like I'm not taking them to anyone else. Like I don't like to have the whole batch baked at home. So here I put some parchment paper on a baking sheet, and then I just scoop the cookies out, or the dough out onto the cookie sheet. And what I will do is I will stick this into the freezer and let them freeze up. It doesn't take very long. I actually forgot about it yesterday, and so when I woke up this morning and I went to pull the frozen berries out of the freezer for my smoothie, I saw the cookie dough still in the freezer, not in its Ziploc bag. So I realized, oops, I forgot to So, and it didn't hurt them at all to be left that long. But anyway, you put them in the freezer, let them firm up and freeze up, and then you throw them in a big Ziploc bag. And then they're in the freezer, and you can pull out as little or as many as you want to bake up a batch of cookies. Like we had my brother and sister-in-law over for dinner was it last week? Yeah, I think it was last week. And I had some cookie dough in the freezer, and so it was really nice just to be able to pull that out and make a quick, like, one tray of cookies for dessert when they came over. So it's always nice. It's just nice to have that in the freezer. And then, of course, clean up. Here's my Pyrex again. The pink Pyrex that you see there, the one with the pink pattern and just the plain pink, those come from my grandma's Pyrex. And so I was given her Pyrex, some of her Pyrex after she passed away. And so I got her pink Pyrex, and there's several bowls in the set. So, and there you saw the cookies, and those are the perfect chocolate chip cookie in my opinion, just in texture and everything. So, and then of course after I baked them, I decided it was time for some tea, and I love the Republic of Tea. They're one of my favorite tea brands, and I love their Earl Grey tea. And I put some local honey that was a gift from my sister-in-law. This honey is from up at Medellin, way up in the northeast corner of Washington. And I don't know, I love Earl Grey. It's just, I don't know, I don't know if I have a favorite tea. Maybe I do. Maybe Earl Grey is my favorite tea. I think if I were just to pick, I would always pick Earl Grey. But I always have to have a little bit of cream in it. So to end this video, I thought that I would share a poem with you. And it's from the book Bread and Wine, Readings for Lent and Easter, which is from Plough Publishing. And it's a collection of a bunch of different writings from different authors over the ages, and they kind of all go along with Lent and Easter. So I'm going to read a poem by Oscar Wilde, and it's called The Ballad of Reading Gaol. And thus we rest life's iron chain, degraded and alone, and some men curse and some men weep, and some men make no moan, but God's eternal laws are kind, and break the heart of stone. And every human heart that breaks, in prison cell or yard, is as that broken box that gave its treasure to the Lord, and filled the unclean leper's house with the scent of costliest nard. Ah, happy those whose hearts can break, and peace of pardon win. How else may man make straight his plan, and cleanse his soul from sin? How else but through a broken heart may Lord Christ enter in?